Today, we are going to be seeing top 10 infamous British gangsters. I'm very sure I have never seen or heard about anything like this before. But when I saw the video, I'm like, oh, what? How long do you get to see it, right? Today's video is coming from Watch MojoUK. It's titled Top 10 Infamous British Gangsters. I cannot wait to see this, to be honest. If they are infamous and they are gangsters, they might be very thorough. They might be very gang-ish. That's a Nigerian slang anyway. Before we dive into the video, I'm Oge. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, good to have you here. Do well to like, share, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you enjoy anything about the video, let's know in the comment section. Drop your comments about what you think about the video, okay? I would love to appreciate my work. You love my face, you love what I do, and love to appreciate me. Use the super thanks button in the just down there, and just appreciate me with whatever you can, and I would really appreciate it, okay? Let's dive straight into the video.
Say hello to my little friend.
MojoUK.
Welcome to Watch MojoUK, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 infamous British gangsters.
And he just fights. He just fights and fights and fights.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we take a look at the most ruthless and notorious gangsters in modern British history.
The worst crime a man can commit is bringing his family up in poverty. So I don't regret any of my actions.
Number 10. Lenny McLean. Frequently dubbed the hardest man in Britain, McLean was known to most people simply as the Governor.
Are you gonna pay? Mary, make sure the administrative side of the business runs harmoniously.
While his gangster credentials aren't as prominent as some, he did become Britain's most famous bare-knuckle street fighter, and reportedly one of the best. Throughout his career, McLean said to have fought in almost 4,000 matches, and to have won most of them.
Well, I used to mind the toughest clubs in Britain, all over the country. I had about 20,000 barroom brawls.
An important figure in the East End as a bouncer, bodyguard and enforcer, he often associated with people such as the Kray twins and Charles Bronson, before in his later life he worked as an actor.
I suggest you get those guns. Quick!
Number 9. Thomas McGraw. Born in Glasgow, Tam the licensee McGraw's criminal career started off with burglary and armed robbery, and he eventually became one of the most wanted men in Scotland. In the 1980s, after somehow avoiding a stint in prison after a failed robbery, he began to expand his criminal empire by selling heroin and purchasing numerous clubs and pubs. He's one of the key figures in Glasgow's ice cream wars, where violent confrontations become commonplace among criminals using ice cream vans as a front for drug sales. Number 8. Charles Bronson. With his taste for fighting guards and inmates alike, Charles Bronson became known as Britain's most violent prisoner, and is one of British crime's most notorious figures.
They said, I'm bigger than my name.
Born Michael Peterson, Bronson began as a petty criminal and was first imprisoned for armed robbery.
Prison was finally a place where I could sharpen my tools.
Upon his release in 1987, he entered the world of bare-knuckle boxing, but his fighting career was fairly short-lived because 69 days later, he was in jail again. Out again in 92, he was arrested a third time for conspiracy to rob and has never been freed since.
And would you like a cup of tea too, mate?
Number 7. Freddie Foreman.
It looks like prison is an interesting place for him. Because I mean, if you are released the first time and then you have to go back and then you have to go back again, then it has to be your favorite place. I hear that prison is not a funny place, especially if you're a criminal. Except maybe he's a gangster, right? And he's a big person. But when you go to prison is like a leveler. It will humble you. You understand what I mean? But if you go there like 3 times, it means that it becomes your favorite place. Wow. Well, I feel like, but wait, are these guys are they popular? Especially the guy that became an actor, the street fighter guy that became an actor. How can you be a gangster and be living freely and still be able to act? I don't understand how that works. But let's see number 7.
Freddie Foreman. He's best known as Brown Bread Fred, or the godfather of British crime, as many publications have come to refer to him, but Foreman says he's nothing like Marlon Brando.
All I wanted to do was make money so we could live a decent life.
One of the East End gangster scene's most feared figures, he was close to the infamous Kray twins and was implicated in numerous murders and other criminal activities.
Once you pull the trigger, you never know what's going to happen. So.
Though never actually convicted of killing anybody, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for disposing of the body of Jack the Hat McVitie, and later in relation to 1983's Shoreditch Security Express robbery.
I feel like when my time's up, at least I've had an eventful life, if nothing else.
Number 6. Tommy Comerford.
Eventful.
The hometown of the Beatles has had its share of shady characters. This includes one of the first big business criminals to establish in England the kind of international drug trafficking network that you perhaps usually link to a mob overseas. Drug baron Tommy Tucker Comerford was instrumental in forming the first serious drug dealing cartel in Britain, which made the Liverpool Mafia the richest in the country.
These guys
His
are
first
big
stint in jail
guys.
came after a bank robbery, and during his long criminal career, he was sentenced to more than 34 years behind bars. Number 5. Desmond and Dominic Noonan.
So most of the time when we hear about these big drug barons, we only hear these things on TV. As an African girl, we only get to hear these things on TV. Like, we get to see them in Hollywood movies, American movies, where you see, like, I've never, like, do they really exist? These guys are like big people. Like, what? Oh my gosh.
Dominic Noonan. These two brothers were the head of one of Manchester's
They're
most
brothers.
infamous and ruthless gangs, which by the late 1990s had become one of the most notorious crime families in the whole of Britain.
We don't do everything
families.
nice, but you know, we do look after each other. We look after our friends.
Involved in drug trafficking, nightlife security and armed robbery, the Noonans' reign over Manchester's underworld lasted over 20 years.
By day it's run by police, by night it's run by gangsters. Manchester is where I was born, where I live and where I'll die.
During that time, they were
He looks
also
like a
suspected of
decent
being
guy.
responsible for more than 25 murders. Desmond was stabbed in 2005 and died of his wounds, while Dominic is currently serving 22 years in prison for arson, blackmail and sex offences.
Shut up, I'll send someone out, I'll beat you up in a minute.
Number 4. Frankie Fraser. One of the most recognisable faces in modern British crime, Mad Frankie Fraser was a guy you didn't want to cross.
Frankie Fraser actually sounds very familiar. I said it was a popular person, was a famous person. Frankie Fraser, it sounds familiar. You guys, does it ring a bell in your ears? Like, what bell does it ring in your ears? It sounds like more like I don't know. I don't want to say trash, but let's continue.
Didn't want to cross.
The police say I've killed 40 people, not 41. If they'd have said 41, I'd have really been upset. I hate odd numbers.
And the nickname is not just for show. He was actually certified insane during a short prison stint after World War II, a conflict he'd managed not to take part in by deserting. Fraser eventually became an enforcer for the Richardson gang during the 60s and was reportedly involved in numerous episodes of torture and murder.
So I allegedly pulled the guy's teeth out with pliers. I only wished it had been true.
His violence followed him in prison, where he would often start fights with other inmates and guards.
That is where I slung Eric Mason out with an axe in his head.
Number 3. The Gunn brothers.
Gunn brothers.
Heads of the Bestwood cartel, named after the Bestwood estate in Nottingham where they set up their criminal enterprise, brothers David and Colin Gunn became the city's foremost gang lords.
In the 1990s, the brothers had risen through the ranks from petty criminals to underworld figures, a rise largely unchallenged by the city's other criminals.
Drug trafficking, protection rackets, corruption and murder became commonplace under their watch, so much so that the city earned the nickname of Shottingham. As their empire grew and drugs flowed in, Colin started becoming more and more violent and volatile, as steroids and cocaine use heightened his worst impulses. Under his watch, even innocents would pay the price of his crimes. Number 2. The Richardson brothers. Charlie and Eddie Richardson were the leaders of what many still consider the most sadistic and ruthless gang in Britain, the Richardson Gang. They were often simply referred to as the Torture Gang due to their preferred way of settling scores and intimidating rivals and transgressors. After holding mock trials, their victims could be subject to electric shocks, teeth pulling using pliers, toe cutting, or even being nailed to the floor. The Richardsons controlled South London, but ended up in a feud with the Krays that lasted into the mid-60s.
The Richardsons, they were frighteners, really vicious people.
Number 1. the Kray twins.
Kray twins.
The most infamous gangsters to ever call London home, Ronnie and Reggie Kray were the most prominent criminals in the city's East End over the 1950s and 60s.
Well, no.
Armed robbery, hijacking, murder and general violence were only some of the brothers' specialities while heads of their own gang, the Firm. As owners of several nightclubs in the 60s, they became part of the swinging London scene and gained a certain amount of celebrity, even appearing on national television. But they were finally arrested in 1968 and essentially spent the rest of their lives in prison.
Now, before we start, I've got a little joke for you. You'll love this one. Paranoid schizophrenic who walks into a bar.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from
You guys, I have a few questions to ask. Like, are these gangsters like real life gangsters or movie gangsters? Because we have a lot of clips that were shown in this video that make it look like it was filmed, because real life gangsters won't film certain things like this and post them online. Do you understand what I mean? So I want to put it to you, ask if there's any of these people that are familiar. So how do you know? Are they like real life gangsters or movie gangsters? Because wow, they look very vicious. But I mean, they don't look vicious, but I mean, the things they have done are actually very vicious. I wanted to also ask another question. Did you guys notice that all these gangsters have a very cool look? You will never know. That's why they say this thing that, oh, they don't write these things in the faces of people. Like, you can't write it on their forehead, oh, I'm a gangster. They look so cool, well collected, well trimmed, neat, and all of that. They don't look like gangsters. Do you understand what I mean? Like, they're carrying dreads, having a particular style of clothing, but they look very normal, very put together, very neat, and all of those things. That's what I'm asking. Like, are they real life gangsters or they are movie gangsters? So I'd love to know what you think or what the response is in the comment section below. Do well to like, share, subscribe, turn on post notification bell. Drop in the comment section what you think about this video, and I'll see you in my next episode. Bye bye.